So I want to talk a bit of what is the responsibilities that organizations can do, and some that are doing in this space of helping with the development, kind of basically picking up where you left off.
Yeah, right. Like we were talking earlier, I was saying that I feel like a lot of what, organizations and colleges and universities are doing, which this work needs to be done, but a lot of it is what I learned from race equity inclusion training is fish fixing, where you're fixing the fish, which are like your students or your clients, thinking that they're the problem, and focusing a lot of your attention and your programming around, okay, how can we better improve our students, in the job market, and how can we make sure that they're prepared and ready to go out into the workforce. And it's like, yes, those programs and are needed. They're necessary to help, prepare students, inform them, make sure that they feel good about, being ready and applying for jobs and going out there and interviewing. But what's missing from the equation are the companies and the organizations not doing their part, because we hear a lot from them like, oh, these students aren't coming in, prepared, and, colleges and universities are doing a terrible job of, making sure that they're meeting like these career readiness competencies, and then
there's some sort of bullshit assumption that they could just hit the ground running and accomplish that project.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I feel like, there's every time I hear a story from an alum or my colleague at work who does all of our alumni relations, hears from our alumni what they're going through at some of these organizations that they work at, the common denominator is the companies and the organizations. And it's like, we prepared these students, these scholars, they did what you told them to do. They got college degrees, and yet they're still going into these toxic environments that are not inclusive, that are not welcoming, that are still steeped in white supremacy culture. The procedures, the systems, the structures that make up this organization are still coming from like a white lens, I say, instead of thinking about how does this impact our Black and brown employees? How does this impact our LGBTQ plus employees? So it makes me think like they want to say they're doing the work, but then they actually don't want to do the work. So they say, yes, we want to hire more diverse candidates, yet you're not willing to go the extra step to go out and find them. You want to make the excuse of, well, they're not applying, or we can't find them. And it's like, well, are you really trying? Are you going outside your traditional recruitment box and going to communities and places that would have more diverse candidates for you to talk to and connect with? That's really important in these communities. Like, you can't just walk in off the street because they're going to think you just want something from them. You've got to establish trust. You have to establish a relationship, and then you'll be able to go in and make these connections and talk to them about opportunities at your organization. And one of the examples, I talked about was the recruiter goes to the career fair on campus, sits at their table, looks at their phone the entire time, doesn't lift their head up.
Go to our website and apply. It's like, but you're right here. Go to our website and apply. I'm literally right in front of your face with my resume. Go to our website and apply.
Don't even look up at the student.
They will give them, the recruiter will give them their own phone and say, there, you can apply there. Just don't talk to me.
This iPad here, just go
and don't think I haven't witnessed that. I have sadly witnessed that.
All the time. And then it's like, hey, if there's some time in your schedule or build time to say, hey, why don't because usually the fair is, so at my alma mater, it's at the basketball arena, it's in, there's like 500 companies there, so
Uh-huh.
they need a really large space, and so they don't actually go to campus and say, okay, are there some student groups that I could talk to, potentially, multicultural student groups having a meeting, or can we, gather some of them and, we can bring in some food and just sit down and talk to them about our opportunities, more of a smaller setting to create connection versus, informal setting and personal at a fair with hundreds of recruiters and students. That one extra step, I think, makes a huge difference, but it seems like, companies and organizations aren't really taking that time to put in that work to find those candidates. But then it's not just a numbers game. You have to also make sure that once they're, with you at your organization, that you retain them. So what are those things that your company is doing to
nurture that retention?
Yeah. So I feel like it just seems like over and over I'm hearing the same stories from our alums, and you see it from organizations that are very similar in terms of what they are not doing in that, diversity, equity, inclusion space.